Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Saturday in the month of October, a new month. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining today. I'm quite excited for what we have to talk about today. So I am looking forward to having a lot more people join this session, and I am looking forward to a lot of questions. To be quite honest. I find that when we talk about money, our money and our families, it can get a little divisive. So I am certainly looking to have quite a few questions from this session. And I think I did figure out what was wrong with my lighting. I do need to change my bulb. That way it's not as dark as you see it now. But welcome. I'm going to take a second and share the video. You should too. Uh, just take a second, share the video. I'll be right back and then we can get started. Okay, almost there, almost done. Almost done. Okay, all done. So today I'm going to be talking about our money and our families. Can you imagine? Money and family. That's one extremely interesting topic. Um, we have a lot that there's nobody you speak with that won't have a story that has to do with your families and their money. So I'm just going to take a second and give a shout out to everyone. Hi, Henry. Thank you for joining. Hi guys, I can't see you if you are on the feed, but thank you for taking out some time in your Saturday morning to join into this session. Okay, so our money and our finances. If you're like a lot of immigrant, well, essentially, what I'm going to be speaking about today will be from an immigrant perspective, more or less. I find that a lot of people who find themselves in like second and third cultures, you do have some conflicts, internal conflicts sometimes that you have to deal with. And hi, Prince. Thank you for joining as always. You do have some internal conflicts that you have to sort out within yourself. And so I'm going to be speaking a lot from an immigrant perspective, personal experience, and what I've gleaned working with many other people. I find that it is extremely important to talk about this because a lot of us are struggling under the weight of guilt or under the weight of helping family members, and we're not sure exactly how to go about that. So, my hope today is that I will talk about it. I will give some suggestions and ideas on how to proactively um, save as far as that way you can cover any family emergencies or expenses that crop up. Today, I'm going to be talking about our extended families as well as our nuclear families too. So I'm not just going to be isolating one or the other. All right. So, as an immigrant coming into America or wherever you find yourself, and you don't really have to be an immigrant to experience this, you can be in your home country. Essentially, if you're coming from an impoverished background, you will understand most of what I'm talking about today. That is not to say if you're not coming from an impoverished background, you may not have an idea. We're all together in this. Okay, so if you come from an impoverished background where if you had to take a census of, say, 10 people within your family and only one person is successful, then this is for you. Culturally, um, a culture has a large part to play with our finances and how we view our money. I'm going to take a step back and talk about money in general. Money is it's a weird thing in that you can never have enough. The more you have, the more you need. Okay. Also, it is a weird thing because money has a, I consider money to have a spirit. It has like almost a spiritual element to it. And let me explain why I say that. Um, Things just go crazy. Imagine you borrowed somebody, you lent money to a friend. This friend, you have a really great relationship with this friend. But after you lent money to the friend, um, things just started going south. Either the friend couldn't pay back, then the friend starts avoiding you, and then in your mind you're thinking, is this person avoiding me because of the money I lent them and they can't pay back? It messes up relationships. That's what I'm trying to say. If we don't handle it correctly, it has a tendency to mess up um, husband and wife relationships, um, romantic relationships, children to parent, brothers and sisters, sister to sister, what have you. It has a tendency to mess up relationships. So, if I'm talking about money today, it's not just about the money. Consider the fact that we come from families, right? We come from families within countries that shape the way we think about our money or shape the way we think about society and our views and our values. So when we talk about money, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about cultural connotations to the money. We're talking about familial connotations to your money. And we're also talking about the personal experiences you've had with money. So imagine if you came from a family background that you guys didn't have enough, okay? As you grow older, a lot of the decisions that you're going to be making and a lot of the reflexes you have to your money will be tied to your background information. So if you guys were always worried about what you're going to have the next day, money to pay for this, money to pay for that, as you grow older, even when you start having more money, even when you start getting to a much more better financial space, you would realize that you still have this fear of lack. You still have this fear of lack, and you may not think you have a fear of lack, but when you start looking at your actions and the decisions you make, they're informed. Those decisions are informed by your foundational education on money, by your foundational background on money. So if you truly want to be free from your foundational background of money, you need to have a sit down talk with yourself and imagine and think about the way you grew up. I had to do that for myself. Think about the way you grew up. Think about the things that were a little toxic in that environment, and you have to now start unlearning those scripts or making decisions not based on those scripts. Okay, so your foundational background with money may not all be bad. Imagine you grew up in a family where you were encouraged to save money. As you grow older, you may become more of a saver and less of a spender. So it's not always all bad, but the bulk of it is usually not as positive. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to cover. Now, when it comes to money, there is an emotion behind money. So when you think about money, what is the first thing you feel? What is the first emotion you feel? Are you happy? Are you excited when you think about money? Are you, when you think about the lack of money, are you a little afraid? Do you become overly anxious? Okay, people feel like the more money you have, the more peace of mind you would have. No, the more money you have, you just have a different set of issues. You don't really have peace of mind. Peace of mind doesn't come because you have more money. Peace of mind comes because you have decided to center yourself. You've decided to not let money evoke certain emotions within you. So peace of mind does not come just because you have more money. It comes because you've learned your script, you've learned your foundational relationship with money, and you've come up with new ways how to live and manage those scripts and foundations with money. Okay, so I'm not gonna delve stay on that point for too long. When we think about money, what is the first thing that comes into your mind? Peace, security, love, joy, happiness, right? So all these emotions crop up. When you don't have money, do you suddenly become angry, anxious? Do you smile less? Do you give less when you don't have money? If you're a parent, what happens? Do you tend to yell at your kids more? Do you tend to antagonize your spouse more? Do you feel resentment towards people who have a little bit more than you? Do you feel like you're being cheated out of life? So all these emotions are attached to our money. And the reason why I want to take time to really talk about these emotions, because these are going to be the emotions that that will be the driving force to how we lend money to family members or friends. Okay? So if we can deal with these emotions, if we can deal with these emotions attached to our money, we have won the battle when it comes to lending money or helping family friends. At least we've won half the battle. That is what I mean to say. So the reason why money and family is a very intricate thing is because you tend to sometimes we tend to feel guilty. We tend to maybe lend money out of emotion. That emotion can be guilt. That emotion can be fear. Okay, we're afraid that something bad should not happen to these people we love, so therefore we're going to lend money to them so they can take care of any needs that the issues that they're having. We lend money because we feel emotionally attached to these people. If your parent were to ask you for money, okay, if you haven't worked on your script, if your close family member, imagine somebody you love, imagine them in a very dire financial circumstance. If they were to ask you for money, you would lend it. Even if you don't have it, you would go through every single means possible to get this money for them, to lend it to them. Whether or not you can afford it is not even a question here. So, this is why I want us to take a second. I'm going to pause here for now. Think. I'm going to give you 2 seconds to think to yourself. What are some of the emotions that crop up when you think about your money? When you don't have money, how do you feel? Do you feel like you can't do anything with your life? Do you feel like, is your day messed up? Okay. Now, I'm not talking about if you have bills piling up. I'm talking about if you don't have money in your hand. How do you feel? In fact, let me see if I can find something. Okay, perfect. So how do you feel? I want to hear you say something in the comment section. I want to get this session very engaging today. If you don't have money, if you're not touching moolah, $5, this is just $5 bills. So if you're not touching these, if you don't feel this in your pocket, how do you feel? Do you feel sad? Okay. So take a moment and think about that. Write it down if you have to in your own moments. So, I want us to start thinking about these emotions. I want us to start walking our way through the emotions. I'm going to use my own personal self as an example. So I didn't necessarily grow up with a lot of money around me. I had enough to be comfortable. I had enough to be okay, to be comfortable, but I didn't have enough to cover maybe a lot of other needs that I had. So essentially, I've always heard, in my mind, there's always a script playing of, oh, we don't have money, there is no money. We don't have money, there is no money. So even when I got to a place where I had some money, in my mind, I always thought, I don't have money, there is no money. I don't have money, there is no money. And I had such a toxic relationship with my money in that when I had it, I was excited. I was happy. I just wanted to spend everything. When I didn't have it, I became anxious. I didn't want to go out to do anything. I felt like I was stuck in my house and I wasn't happy. So I had to get to the place where I realized that all these emotions are I'm attaching all these emotions to my money. Why? Because that's an environment I grew up in. I'm coming from a background, while Cameroon, as an immigrant coming from Cameroon, we didn't have plenty, actually. We had just enough. Sometimes we went without. So coming from that place, there's always a fear of, how is tomorrow going to be okay? How am I going to be tomorrow? What am I going to eat tomorrow? And as I got to a place where I started working, as the bills piled up, I became anxious. Whenever I see my phone ring, I become anxious. So whenever the end of the month is coming, I am extremely sad, or I'm extremely anxious, and I'm scared. Let me use that. I feel afraid. Why? Because I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough to cover my bills, my rent. If I don't have enough to cover my rent, guess what? The landlord would start knocking. The landlord would start posting things. It used to be, I used to have a time where when I came back home from work and I just saw a paper on my door, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I hated it. It just gave me a level of anxiety. But I had to sincerely take a moment with myself and deal with these emotions attached to money. You're not supposed to be that attached to your money, okay? And when I dealt with these emotions, everything else became a lot easier. So let's go into family and some of the mistakes we make. Okay, so one of the mistakes we make is this: sponsoring toxic behavior. In every family, you're going to have some people who are doing better than others naturally. You're going to have some people who make better choices, better financial decisions than others. You have more people who you have some people who delay gratification, and then you have some people who just want to spend their money and look rich. Okay? So if you're coming from one of those families, how can you be in a position of funding toxic behavior? Imagine you have a brother or a sister or a cousin or whatever. You know that this person keeps making the wrong decisions for their lives, and then they come to you for help, and without you asking further questions, you just give them money. You're creating a cycle that you're creating a cycle in which they're going to keep coming back to you for money. You're going to keep giving, and if you're not careful, you will find that they will pull you down. A lot of what I'm going to touch on today is, imagine that you're in a body of water or you're in an ocean drowning. Not well. Let me take it two steps back. Imagine that you see somebody in the ocean drowning. It's a loved one. What is your initial reaction? Your initial reaction is to run and jump in the water to save them. But you got to ask yourself two questions. Does this person really want to be saved? How did this person get in the ocean to begin with? Right? How did the person get in the ocean to begin with? Do they want to be saved? The reason why you need to know that is because if you had to run without thinking and jump in the ocean to save them, you can drown yourself. If it's somebody who doesn't want to be saved, they will keep fighting you in the ocean. And if you've ever rescued anyone who is drowning, when they keep start fighting you, if you're not careful, you yourself, you will drown. So um, I use that example to explain this concept I want to talk about. When somebody comes to you, a family member comes to you to loan money, what is your initial reaction? Do you just give them, or do you want to find out a little bit more? Okay, um, what's happening? How did you end here? How can I help outside of money? So money is not the only way you can help somebody. Giving them knowledge, you help them. Connecting them with somebody that you know may help them. Helping them get a job. For somebody coming to you asking for money all the time, helping them to get a job is a way of helping them. If they have a job, helping them get a better job, either get the skills they need to get a higher paying job, is another way of helping them without you directly giving them money. So if you're going to decide to help somebody, always, number one, lend what you can afford to lose. In fact, when it comes to money, I have a principle that I don't loan family money. I don't loan family money. Why? If you give somebody money and you think about it as a loan, if they don't pay that money back, or if you don't get that money back, it destroys the relationship. It strains the relationship. So if I give, I don't consider it a loan, because if I get it back, great. If I don't get it back, it's whatever. This is why loan only what you can afford to lose. Are you all still with me? Am I making sense? I want to see some comments, if at all, within the box. I want to see some comments in the chat section to make sure that you guys are still with me. Um, I just want to make sure you're still with me. Hi, Sylvie. Hi, Rogers. Hi, Prince. Thank you for joining. Hi, Riaz. Hi, Henry. I said hi to you before. Hi, Sylvie. Thanks for joining. Sorry, guys. I need to take care of something. This is what happens when you have a one-man show. This is what happens when you have a one-man show. So I'm hoping if you want to help me with my videos, just reach out to me. Anyway, so lend only what you can afford to lose. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about. The mistake, the number two that we do is when we lend money, you have to see it as a business transaction, not an emotional transaction. When you go to the bank to lend money, they don't say, even if you know the person who is the loan officer, the loan officer doesn't say, oh, I know you, I trust you, I know you can afford it, just give it back just pay it back at will. No, look at it as a business transaction. Business is business, family is family. If you're going to loan the money, it is a business transaction, and you need to do everything you would do with a business partner. What do I mean by that? Draw up a contract. Now, I understand depending on where you are in the world, this may not be, just take what you need, take what you can use, and leave the rest if it's not for you. Draw up a contract. And when you draw up a contract, you need to be clear. The contract needs to be clear. You need to clarify exactly the terms and the conditions of the lending, the money you're lending, so as to remove any misunderstanding. Okay? And what do I mean by that? You need to talk about how much is going to be paid, the increments in which they're going to be paid, by the exact date of the month, the exact date, the bulk of the money should be given back in full, should be paid back in full. If you're going to charge them interest, what is the interest rate you're going to charge? If the money is going to be deposited in a particular account, you need to specify what that account is, what the account number is. If you're gonna say that, if you're gonna get the payments through a third party, you need to specify who that third party is. So there doesn't need to be, you cannot leave room for misunderstanding. You cannot leave room for, oh yeah, just pay me back whenever you have it. Whenever that person has it, maybe in the next 1 or 2 years. And a lot of times as humans, if we don't have a time frame, that is why whenever you go to create a goal, it is always wise to have a smart goal that has a date, a time, um, when you're going to accomplish that goal. That is how you know if you're successful or not. So when you lend money, you need to have all these things in place. Okay. Don't just work off of, oh, I know you can pay back, I trust you. Don't do it. Because if this person defaults, you have nothing to show that you guys had an agreement. In fact, you don't even have paper trail if you give them cash, which is why I'm also going to advise that if you're going to lend somebody money, try avoid giving cash. You can either do a bank transfer. You can do, there are a lot of payment systems today, whether it's a mobile money transfer, whether it's a Cash App, Venmo, whatever. Make sure there is a paper trail. If you have to give somebody cash, make sure you both sign a receipt, or make sure um what is it? How do I put this? Make sure that there is a contract. Another thing to consider is that you can also, if the person has PayPal, you can tell the person to send you an invoice. Okay, anybody can create an invoice in PayPal. The person sends you an invoice, and you go and give the person money with your credit or debit, say credit card. If this person refuses to pay within a certain amount of time, you can charge that thing back. You can charge it back. Okay, now there are some legalities surrounding that. That's just an idea. You would need to do a little bit more research to find out how you can go about charging back if it were to come down to that. And I'm going to pause here and also say, if we have somebody who is doing business and the person is selling something to us, always go through the right channels of buying that thing. Because if you buy it and then it's not good and the person is refusing to take it back, you can always go back and do a chargeback to that person's business or to the card. So that's an idea for you. Okay, so I talked about not leaving out details, and you also need to specify that if there is a late payment, okay, if this person has a late payment, what are the fees associated with a late payment to you? How long can they go without making a payment? So all this, the same thing a bank would do to you, you need to be able to do with that person. Now, another mistake we do is we just lend money. There are certain people that, yes, if it's the first time they're asking you for money, I can understand why you want to give it to them without necessarily asking why they need it. But if you have repeat offenders, if somebody is always coming to you to lend money, and then you can see that the person maybe not, they may not be as uh, they may not be good financial managers of their money, you want to ask. It is within your right to ask. Find out why they need the money. Okay? When you find the reason why you're finding out why they need the money is not to judge them. Is to figure out, okay, if this person is coming to me, they've already given you the ability to probe and see what's happening in their lives. You want to see, is it something you can help them with that doesn't involve money? Okay? Making better choices, maybe buying them a financial tutoring session with somebody like myself so they can learn a lot more about their money. So you just want to do that way. It's not like you're enabling that behavior. When you find out why they need the money, it's really up to you to decide whether or not you're going to give them. On that note, I want to just also stress a factor. All of us, we fall on hard times at one point or another, right? You never want to make somebody feel guilty. Already the person may feel quite bad that they have to come to you to ask for help. So we don't want to guilt trip them. We don't want to create a very uncomfortable situation where it's like they have to kiss your feet now just because you're helping them. No, that's wrong. Okay, if you're going to make a decision to help somebody, and in helping you ask why they need the help, you're not asking to be a police over their life. You're not asking to make fun of them. Make sure you're asking from a perspective of if you want to help them. Okay, because it is not right to for people who are in a hard up situation for you to stigmatize them or make fun of them. Okay, another thing I talked about, not being judgmental or microanalyzing their choices. We have this tendency as human beings, if we loan somebody money and then maybe we see them off at a family reunion, or we see them off doing something, either carrying the most expensive bag or wearing the most expensive outfit, automatically in our mind we start thinking, how do they afford that? If they can afford that, why are they asking for money? And it's like we start becoming like a police over their lives, and that's not right. We need to give people space. I had somebody once ask me, I this was a few years ago, whenever I just had some things I needed to take care of. Actually, I didn't have a job. And I remember I had a car, and the car was a luxury car. So you would say, right? And I remember somebody looking at me and saying, how don't you have money and then you're driving such a car? Or how don't you have money and then you're wearing or you're doing such a thing? What you have to understand is that the fact that somebody doesn't have money now does not mean that they could not afford what they have already. Okay, so I think it's wrong to look at somebody and say, well, you're driving this or you're doing that, so I'm not going to lend you money, or you don't need money, kind of thing. um Essentially, people go through seasons in our lives, seasons of plenty, seasons when we don't have. So you don't want to be that person who is stigmatizing or judging somebody just because they come to you for help. Another mistake we make is we have a savior complex. When we help somebody, we feel like they're beholden to us. We feel like that person owes us. Okay, whoever we lend money to, the person doesn't owe us more than the money we have lent to them. We don't own that person based off of the fact that we lent them money. And I say this because of this. Okay, I'm going to use this example. Bear with me. Imagine if you have a young lady, okay, who seeks the assistance of a male figure to assist her. And I'm going to explain this within a cultural context. Imagine if you have that uncle who helps you, right? And then you ask this uncle for money. In the process of in the process of this uncle helping you, they start trying to get other favors from you. just because they're helping you. That's wrong. If we're going to be helping people and we are helping them and we try to enslave them, that's wrong. You're better off not helping them. That's a mistake a lot of people do. You're not their savior. Drop the savior complex. They just come to you because they feel like they can trust you to help them. Just help them. Okay. I did mention this earlier. Helping somebody doesn't necessarily mean you have to give them money. Helping them is much more than giving money sometimes. You need to find out what are some of the things that you can maybe introduce them to somebody who can get them a job. Pay for their pay for a certificate that you know that once they pass and they can start working, they'll be able to take care of themselves. So I've listed all of that and I'm going to take a step back and speak more broadly now. If you come from from a different background like I do, okay, there is this tendency, there is this understanding that we help our family members. So if you're successful and you have other people behind you who are not successful, there is an understanding that you are beholden to help them. You have to make sure and understand the scope of that help. What does it mean? Does it mean I'm not going to pay for your tuition? Because a lot of us have a lot of siblings and cousins that need help. So we need to understand the scope of this help, what it entails and what it means. Now, if you understand that you may have parents, right? If you have parents, from a cultural perspective, parents looked at their kids. I don't know if they do that nowadays, if we do this nowadays, but depending on what culture you're coming from, in the African culture to a certain degree, parents look at their kids as insurance, meaning that as they get older, these kids would turn around and take care of them. It's the same within the African culture. It's the same within the Southeast Asian cultures or Asian cultures. So I'm not just speaking here randomly. If you're one of these people who fall within the category that you need to help your siblings or your parents, you need to start proactively planning for that. And what do I mean by that? If you need to just open a separate account where you're putting $10, $100 here and there, it would go a long way to help you. The pitfall, the hole we fall into when it comes to helping family happens when somebody's emergency becomes ours. I always say, don't let somebody else's emergency become your emergency. So if you can proactively say, open an account where you're putting in $100 here or there, or $10 here or there. So if somebody who was a family member came up to you and they were like, oh, I need money, my rent is late, I need to pay for my kids' tuition, you can easily go into that account and take a little bit of what's there to help them without necessarily dipping into your own personal pocket or into your own family's finances. And this is a point I want to stress. This would help us not make emergency decisions, and when we don't plan ahead for stuff, when those things happen, they tend to set us back financially. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that again. If you're coming from a culture that you already know you need to help family members, start proactively saving towards that. You don't need to save a huge chunk of your money. $100 here or there, $10 here or there into that account will go a long way. And that would also help you because in your mind, you've already created a budget, okay, that you can give out. If somebody comes to you and they said, oh, I need $500, what I do is, if somebody came to me and said, I need $500, I assess my finances. Because I've already thought about this ahead of time, I can say, okay, I don't have $500 to give you, but I can give you $100. I can give you $200, okay? Unless I never fully give somebody, if somebody comes to me to ask me for $500, I never fully give the $500. Why? I want that person to go back and try to figure out how to get it. And if that person still can't get it and comes back to me, then I can consider helping out a little bit more. In doing so, I don't encourage bad behavior. In doing so, I give that person a chance to also work for what they need. And in so doing, I help myself not overspend. Okay, that's one aspect that I wanted to cover. Another thing we can do is this: instead of giving money directly to the family member, if it's a family member whose financial habits are terrible, instead of giving money to them, find out what they need done and pay for it directly. Okay, some people may come to you and tell you, oh, I need $700 to take care of this, and in reality they need only $300, but then they're trying to tag on more money that way they can get some money out of you. That's like extortion, and people do that, especially family members who know that you would either feel guilty for not helping them. They do that. So you want to find out if it's to pay a bill. Volunteer to pay that bill yourself. Okay, volunteer to do it yourself. That way you're not putting money directly into their hand. Another thing I wanted to put out there is this: if you know that you have a lot of family members that you're helping, okay, formalize it. And what do I mean by formalize it? Already you're giving money away. Forget the fact that they're family members. It's like you're giving money away to and to help people that are impoverished. You can set up a foundation. You can set up a foundation and have a bank account for that foundation. You can call the foundation Caring Hands or Blessed Hands, whatever you want to call it. And the vision for that foundation would be to help impoverished people, or you help people who fall on hard times. Okay, when you set up that foundation, start putting money into the account of that foundation. When people come to you for help, whether it's family members, whether it's friends, take money in the name of that foundation and loan it out. Or you can loan it out, or you can gift it out. If you're gifting money in that foundation and you're registered, you're legally registered, come tax time, there are a lot of things you can write off. There are a lot of things you can write off. So if you're going to decide to be helping family, do it in such a way where it benefits you should they not pay you back. You can set up a foundation, you can set up a nonprofit, and that nonprofit's reason for being would just be to help people. That's it. And then you can write it off. You can come tax time, if you're able to write it off, you can write it off. I'm not a tax advisor. It's just an idea. You can look into it a little bit more. So it's a little quiet. I'm going to pause and see what everyone is thinking in the comment section. Just going to give me an idea if some of the things I'm saying make sense. If there's a certain aspect that you want me to touch on a lot more, just let me know so I'm not just speaking to myself. If there's a certain aspect you want me to cover when it comes to family and our money, just let me know so I'm not just speaking to myself. So I'm going to be watching for the comments, and I'm going to, once I start seeing them, I will say something to it. Okay, let me wear my glasses. Again, I need to start doing this, that way I'm not blind. Oh, okay. Prince, thank you for commenting earlier. No money at hand, I feel less of a man. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's understandable, right? That's understandable. I can't speak from a man's perspective because I'm not a man. I can speak only from a woman's perspective. You're not alone. There are a lot of other people out there who feel the same way, where if they don't have money in hand, they feel as less of a man. Now, one of the things you want to do then is have a talk with yourself. There's so many other things that you are. There's more to you than just having money. In fact, that's what I'm trying to say. There's more to you than just having money. So you may want to sit down and have a talk with yourself and write out the things that you're good at, the value that you already add to your society and people around you. That way, if you don't have money, you don't feel as less of a man. Prince says, I enrolled my cousin in